Thank you all so much for attending here this morning. Here at the college, we're very pleased to have this event here now in its 15th year, recognizing the accomplishments of area women. It's definitely something here at the college we value, all of the contributions of all, and I'm really pleased to be part of an institution that's had a part in holding this event now for 15 years. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our Mistress of Ceremonies, Sheila Wahamaki. Sheila is an instructor here and the chair of the Creative and Performing Arts Department here at Muskegon Community College. She's also been recognized as a woman of accomplishment as part of this program, and last year was the keynote speaker for this event. So we're very pleased to have her helping us through this morning. And she's an accomplished actress and just a wonderful person, and it's going to be delightful to have her take on this event. Now please welcome Sheila Wahamaki.
Thank you. All right. Who said that? Thank you. You know, it's an honor to be here this morning as your Mistress of Ceremonies. I've pondered being a mistress before. I do need something to stand on, don't I? Wow, 15 years of recognizing women of accomplishments. Did you look on the back of your program this morning? See all those names? Now, Dan did not acknowledge this, but his lovely wife, Sarah, received this award in 2008. And I know this because that was the same year I got the award, too. I want to recognize first, right off, if your name is on the back as one of these recognized women of accomplishment, would you stand? Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I love quotations, and so throughout the morning you're going to hear a few quotations here. One that I recently read said, "People of accomplishment rarely sit back and let things happen to them. They go out and happen to things." I kind of like that. Did you know, though, that during this 15 years of the Women of Accomplishment recognition, that over 70 women have been honored with the award from nearly 300 nominations submitted. Now that's a lot of happening women, I think. The first Woman of Accomplishment Award breakfast, created with support from Muskegon Community College, was held in 1997 with the goals to celebrate women who have given up their time, talents, and treasures unselfishly, to acknowledge the important mentoring roles of women who served, to recognize those who we consider unsung heroines, to increase the self-confidence of women, and give them some love. Now, those particular words came from Miss Janie Brooks over there, who we all love, and we thank you for that. Today, we continue to celebrate women from all backgrounds who demonstrate their love and commitment to our local communities. Muskegon Community College is proud to be involved in this outstanding award recognition, but we're also, I think, very proud of our recently formed partnership with this event with the Women's Division of the Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Muskegon Women's Club, which the club, by the way, houses the now becoming famous Wall of Fame, which recognizes the achievements of women. How many of you have seen the Wall of Fame at the club? It's wonderful. I want to take a moment, though, if we have representatives from the Women's Division of the Chamber of Commerce, and I know we do the Greater Muskegon Women's Club. Would you stand, please, and be recognized? Wonderful. It's great to have you here this morning. Thank you so much for that. Well, on with the show. We have a very special keynote speaker this morning, and I found a quotation for you. And here's the quote. "We don't know who we are until we see what we can do." This quote was by Martha Grimes. Well, I researched Martha Grimes because I wasn't quite sure who she was, and I discovered she's a mystery writer. But more importantly, she's a former instructor at the University of Iowa. Does that sound familiar? All right. Certainly, our keynote speaker today is a doer. Maria Lattice Hoops, born and raised in Muskegon County. This graduate of North Muskegon High School earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in Philosophy and Communications from Michigan State University in 1987. But in 1985, she was a student of International Studies at Cambridge University in England. While attending MSU, Maria served as president of the student government and was recognized in 1986 by the Detroit Free Press as one of the most politically active students in Michigan. From 1987 to 1989, she worked as a paralegal for the Legislative Council for the U.S. House of Representatives and also for the American Enterprise Institute for Public Policy Research in Washington, D.C. She's a doer. Maria Lattice Hoops received her law degree from the University of Iowa. You get the connection now? In 1992, and after earning her law degree, she served as legal counsel to the Vice President for University Relations at the University of Iowa from 1992 to 1995. Then in 1995, along with her husband, attorney Kenneth Hoops, Maria Lattice Hoops returned to Greater Muskegon to enter into private law practice with her father, former Muskegon County Prosecutor Paul Lattice, who is with us here this morning. Paul, nice to have you here. From 2004 to 2006, Maria was appointed to serve on the Michigan Women's Commission, but then in December of 2006, Governor Jennifer Granholm appointed Maria judge of the 60th District Court of Muskegon County. The Honorable Maria Lattice Hoops is the first female to serve as full-time judge in the history of Muskegon. Recognized as a woman of accomplishment by Muskegon Community College in 2007, Judge Lattice Hoops does remain active in community and civic organizations. She has started and continues to conduct a mental health court in Muskegon County that serves mentally ill defendants. She serves on the boards of the Muskegon County Bar Association and the United Way of the Lakeshore Child Abuse Council. She also is a guest faculty for the Michigan Judicial Institute. Such a doer. This accomplished woman, however, is most proud of being the mother of daughters Catherine and Mary Grace. Let us welcome the Honorable Maria Lattice Hoops. There you go.
Thank you.
So welcome.
Well, good morning. I have to say it is an absolute honor and privilege to be before you today. And congratulations to the recipients of the award here today. And I know, having been a past recipient, it is a huge honor. Congratulations as well to any nominees who are here. I have to tell you, I was a nominee before I got the Women of Accomplishment. I think I was nominated in like 2004 and didn't get the award, and I got it in 2007. So sometimes, some of us, it takes a few shots to be here. And thank you all for being here today. When Dan asked me to give the keynote speech here today, he asked, because he had heard me speak at Women's Equality Day, and said, you know, I want you to talk about your passion for being involved in your community and how you received that from your parents and hope to pass that along to your daughters. And that is a huge part of my life, and I can tell you, if you're here at 8:30 in the morning on a beautiful Saturday morning, it's got to be a passion for every single one of you in this room, whether you've been nominated or whether you're a recipient or not. So when I was preparing for the speech, one of the things that I did was, I thought, what am I going to talk about? So I looked at the nomination application and really broke it down. And the nomination application for this says to try to nominate someone who we would want to honor as a woman who has achieved much in their personal lives, as well as having significant contributions to benefit our community in and above their work. The application for this award also states someone who has added value to others' lives as mentors, role models, advocates for area women and children. So that's what they were looking for when they asked for nominees for this award. And so I thought, well, what does that really mean? What does that really mean to us? And to me, when I think of any individual, not just women, who have those qualities, and what we're looking for when we want people to be involved in their community is really a three-prong process or purpose. And that is, number one, individuals who are vigilant in promoting and inspiring youth to achieve. So why in our country are we so passionate about wanting our youth to achieve? Why do some of you go and mentor underprivileged youth or raise money to make sure those things happen? Well, when you really think about it, we're passionate about mentoring and inspiring our youth because we want them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. We want them to be able to walk out the door and support themselves and carry on so that there isn't a gap to fill. So that then when they become adults, we as a society are not filling a gap. And that's sort of, and that's what happens to youth who are not inspired to achieve. They fall by the wayside. And eventually, not everyone, but eventually there's those of us in the community who are out there trying to plug those holes and fill those gaps because as adults, they can't care for themselves. They need help. So that's sort of the second part of what someone who achieves a lot and contributes to their community does, and that is they're filling that gap. They're contributing to their community by filling the gap for those who can't do by themselves. They didn't have expectations placed on them that were clear and that were enforced. As a youth, I remember that there were really 3 things that my parents did. And, I got to tell you, the last time I got this award, I cried, so I'm going to try not to cry. when I receive the award, I'm going to try not to cry today, but I have a penchant for doing that sometimes when I speak. But there were 3 things that clearly influenced me when I was a young girl by my parents, and that was, number 1, education, the importance of education, and being and knowing that you weren't going to be able to achieve if you didn't get an education. And there was one thing, and I thought it was really important, that came from my father. I didn't know he was going to be here today. By the way, I'm warning you, I talk about him a lot, and my mother told me last night, oh my gosh, your dad's going to take that extra ticket. And I said, I did it, didn't I, Mom? I said, oh gosh. So really, no, you sure? But anyway, so that being said, there was one thing he said to me, and over again, and it's so true, and I think especially for women, he said, you can do whatever you want to do, but you have to get your education. And you have to be able to make a living on your own. And if you want to stay home and after you have kids, that's fine. If you want to marry someone who has, is able to support you and you don't work, that's fine. But you don't know what's going to happen in life. You don't know whether that man's going to leave you. You don't know whether he's going to pass away. You don't know what's going to happen to his finances. You have to be ready to support yourself. And so we have to always remember to pass that on to our youth, that they have to be able to support themselves. The second thing they taught me was to be active and involved in my community. And they did that both by showing financial giving as well as the importance, as you can probably hear from my background, of being active politically. And I want to say this, and I say this a lot when I speak, active politically, whatever your political party is, whatever your beliefs are, the important thing is that you get out there and you are active and you try to push forward what ideals and policies you believe are important. And the third thing was they immersed me in both education as well as the community involvement. In education, and a lot of folks don't get this. I mean, we know this in this world. They sat by you when you didn't get the Algebra 2 problem or even the Algebra 1 problem or even sometimes just the division problems. But, they sat by you and worked with you. And so when there's that gap, we as a community need to come forward and help those that aren't getting it. They taught me the importance of work. They had the expectation that you would work hard from the very beginning. I tell this story a lot. My father's a lawyer, and he had his own law practice, and I started working there when I was literally 10 years old. And answered phones, filing. I was yelled at by him, told, you better, there's no excuse for not getting it right. There is no excuse for not getting it right. And that expectation, and I think sometimes we've lost that, the expectation that you have to get it right. And sometimes you're not, but you should at least have the expectation that it be right. And sometimes in our society now, we're apologizing for that. And we shouldn't be. We have to remember that we have expectations of our youth and that they get it right. And the third thing is, again, in addition to immersing me in education and work, was immersing me in community involvement. And, I don't like to speak about myself, but it's a great way to show example of how those experiences really change your life. And one of my parents, when they were involved, whatever they were doing, they were obviously involved in politics, they took me and they made me work. And I'll give you a great example. I really didn't want my dad to be here for this, but I've told stories in previous speeches about being involved in just being active in campaigns and governor's campaigns and being asked to be involved in the student government at Michigan State, which ultimately led to some leadership positions. But one thing I've never talked about is when I was young, when I was like 13, my father ran for judge. And he must have been a great slew of people who ran with him because he lost. But I was 13 years old, and I had to go at 5 o'clock in the morning to all of the manufacturing companies and stand outside the door as the workers were coming in and pass out pamphlets and had to put like gum on the pamphlets, because if you put gum on the pamphlets, if you glued a little piece of gum on the pamphlets, they pay more attention to the literature. That was the old way of doing it. And marching in parades, and all kinds of things. Going to the CIO hall more times than I care to count. And I just remember being totally immersed in that campaign at 13. And I remember, though, on the day of the election, it was a primary election, I was at camp. And I couldn't call my parents from camp, but they gave special permission for me to be able to call back home. And so I did, and he lost. And I remember what a heartbreak that was, But, and then, I don't really want to embarrass him, but then he went through the appointment process, like 15 years later when I was in college. It must have been like 10 years later when I was in college. And he lost again. Sorry. But that was a really politically immersed process as well. I can tell you, having gone through it myself. It is a, push the elbows, get out of the way, push yourself forward, hard political process. There are people throw no bones when they're going through that in any political office, including a judicial office. And even in that process, I remember we went out to the Democratic Party convention in San Francisco to try to, I don't know, well, he was a delegate, but we were active and we did some other things in that process. And again, though, he did not get the appointment. But and by the time I was done with that, I can tell you after the election when I was 13, I thought there was no way I was ever going to do anything like be a judge. I couldn't face that heartbreak. I couldn't do that. But I will tell you this, it gave me a love for politics. And I grabbed onto that. And when I was in college, I was extremely active and ultimately became president of the student government at Michigan State. I went on to Washington, D.C. and worked in politics. And when a woman named Jennifer Granholm ran for Attorney General, and I was fortunate enough to meet her, I knew that was someone I wanted to support, and I did everything I could to help her win. And before I knew it, somehow I was in the spot for judge. But when that came around, I knew what to do. I knew what to do because my parents made sure I was active when I was 13. And I know I've talked to Holly Hughes about that too, and her dragging her girls to all kinds of events. And what that does, there's no question in my mind that had I not worked on that campaign when I was 13 years old, I would not be standing before you today. This is no disrespect to, I better not say this, it's recorded, but I knew what to do. I knew what the process was, and it was only because I was immersed in community involvement. And that's what I say when I say, don't just be involved, but make sure you explain to people how it's an opportunity, how you find your own love for life, what you want to do with your life when you do that. So I have two daughters, and of course I drag them around to things. But I was trying to think, well, what do I do to, my husband and I both, really, to try to inspire them? And one of the things that I did, it was sort of by accident, but, I'm sure some of you in this room do, and I brought it along with me. I thought this would be a little kind of interesting, is when my oldest daughter, Catherine, who's just turned 17, she's at an all-day tennis tournament today, actually, with Chris McWilliams' daughter and a few others. That's where my husband is, too. But my younger daughter, Mary, is here today. When my older daughter was about 9 years old, we were at Barnes & Noble's, and I came across this book, and I don't know if it's the best book in the world, but it's a great book. It's called 100 Famous Women. And I did what every good mother does when she was 9 years old, or 10, I think she was about 10. I bribed her to read this from cover to cover. And it has like maybe 4 or 5 page synopses of 100 famous women, most of whom are leaders. And I told her, and not only did I do what every good mother does, bribe her, but I threatened her. I said, when you're done, I will go through it and I will ask you facts. I'm just going to open it up and I'm going to ask you facts. So I want to know that you read it thoroughly. And so she did. And then, of course, when Mary Grace was 10, I made the same bribe and the same threats. And you can see it's quite beat up. But this has been a really important part of our mother-daughter relationship. We've been able to talk about a lot of the women in here. We've used it for book reports. I've used it for speeches. But those are the kinds of things, that's one of the things that I've done, is to help my girls move forward and know that they can do anything they want to do, is to read about women who have been inspiring and done anything and everything that they want to do. So, as I was preparing for this speech, I asked both of them to sit down with me, and I thought this would be fun with everyone here. I asked them to sit down with me and pick their top 5 favorite women out of here. And so and give a couple of interesting facts. And the women that the 3 of us picked, a total of 5 between the 3 of us, are not really necessarily the women that you would think, like Susan B. Anthony. I mean, those are obvious women. Or, like Indira Gandhi or something. But the first person that Mary Grace picked was Billie Jean King. And I was like, Billie Jean King? Really? She's like, yeah, Mom, you gotta read it. Of course, I never read it cover to cover. But she's like, yeah, Mom, you gotta read it. It's really good. And it was. It's really interesting. Billie Jean King, through her successes in the 1960s in tennis, which included winning the U.S. Open and Wimbledon, spoke out, as we all know, about various inequities between men and women. But one of the reasons she is so great is she went beyond speaking out. She was willing to sacrifice her own successes for the advancement of the cause she believed in, the inequities of men and women. Specifically, when she won the U.S. Open in 1972, she received $15,000 less than the male winner. So, when 1973 came around, she refused to participate in the U.S. Open unless the prizes were made equal. And of course, they wanted her to compete. So the sponsors of the U.S. Open honored that request, and since then, those prizes have been equal. But she was willing to say, you know what, I'll lose my titles or the ability to get them for this cause. The second one, and I think it's because she had to do a report on it, but was Harriet Tubman. Mary Grace picked her. Conductor of the Underground Railroad, who led hundreds of slaves to freedom and risked her life in doing so before the Civil War in 1961. And Harriet Tubman, a former slave herself, faced jail, a return to slavery, or even death if she were caught for making this transfer of slaves into the free country of the North. And so she, as well, is a prime example of how one woman alone can change the fate of hundreds of other people. The third one was picked by my daughter, Catherine, and if you knew her, this would totally make sense. She picked Princess Diana, and it was probably influenced by going and seeing the exhibit in Grand Rapids, but it really is a good pick. She picked her for the willingness to step outside the regulated boundaries of her roles and duties by touching others' lives. You know, the royalty is not supposed to step out and literally touch others. They're supposed to stand back and be very formal. But she was willing to step outside that role and touch thousands of people's lives. And what else she taught us, and I think this is an important thing to understand as well about community involvement, is that Princess Diana dealt with her own personal pain and suffering, her emotional pain and suffering that she was going through by giving and working with others. We all know about her great work with the victims of landmine victims and AIDS patients before her untimely death. So the fourth of the five was picked by Mary Grace, and that is, I couldn't believe this one, but I made a commitment to them that I would speak about their picks. Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was a young Catholic woman in the 15th century France who changed the course of history. She claimed to hear voices from God that told her to lead the French soldiers against the invading English army. Joan, at the age of 16, led her troops to important victories for France and inspired her fellow citizens to rise up against the English. Later, she was murdered for her convictions. In 1920, more than 500 years after she led the French to victory at the young age of 16, and wearing men's armor and leading an all-male military, the Catholic Church proclaimed her a saint. So Mary Grace is like, you've got to pick her, Mom. I mean, she wore men's armor in front of all of those people. She was just a teenager. I said, all right. And the fifth and final one is my pick, and that is U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. And it's really interesting. In 1879, Belva Lockwood became the first female lawyer to try a case before the U.S. Supreme Court. 1879. It took more than 100 years to pass. In 1981, Sandra Day O'Connor became the first woman to serve as Justice of the United States Supreme Court. And she has many admirable qualities that include being an advocate for breast cancer research, having been a breast cancer survivor herself, and of course having a brilliant legal mind and many achievements. But a quote frequently attributed to her sums up her attitude that women absolutely must embrace to break through the glass ceiling. And not only break through the glass ceiling, but to keep those positions once they get there. And Justice O'Connor often said, the power I exert on the court depends on the power of my arguments. The power of my arguments, not my gender. And that's what we have to remember, it's really all about expecting it to be right and getting that education and having high expectations of our youth. So the first part, again, is inspiring our youth. The second part being contributing to other people's lives. I followed Judge Graham. That was my predecessor. I don't know if many of you must know Judge Graham. Judge Graham had a reputation in this community. He was very hard-nosed, and not saying it mildly. And he was beloved by many, though, in this community. But he was on the bench for about 34 years before I was appointed after his retirement. And he loved being a judge. Okay, and he would come and see me every Friday afternoon at 4:45 before he unfortunately passed away. That was probably for a year. Every Friday afternoon he would show up, 4:45. And one thing he used to say to me over and over again, and I have to tell you, in my philosophy, he was right. And that was, he said, Maria, you're going to have to be the parent that many of these people never had. You're going to have to be the parent that many of these folks never had. And the other thing he used to say is be a blessing every day. And once again, that's why we're all here, because there are a lot of folks in our own community, of course, and in this world, who never have had the privilege of hearing, make sure you get an education, make sure you get that homework done tonight, tomorrow night, and the next night. Staying on those kids, because that's what it takes. And unfortunately, though, we have a society that expects all of our citizens to behave as if they've been lucky enough to have two parents at home, or even one parent at home who's there emotionally, mentally, financially. We have the expectation that everyone has it, and they don't. And so that's why all of you are here today, because for those that haven't had that, you're not here for a pat on the back or because you think you're great people, but it's because, especially those award winners, are willing to come out of their comfort zone. You're willing to come out of your comfort zone and fill the gap. And that's why we're here to honor you and pass that on to others. So in closing, I certainly don't have all the answers, but I just want to reiterate that the long and short of it is, we're inspiring our youth, we're involved in our community so that other individuals can stand on their own 2 feet. And we have to contribute to our community to fill those gaps and mentor in the hopes that someday there will be no more gaps to fill. So I thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today, and congratulations again to the recipients. Thank you.
I think you are a blessing probably every day. That was wonderful.
There's a lot of people that wouldn't agree with you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much for that. Very inspirational. Well, Vince Lombardi said, "It is time for us to stand and cheer for the doer, the achiever, the one who recognizes the challenge and does something about it." So at this time, it is my honor now to present the winners of the Women of Accomplishment for 2011. We begin with Suzette Castorjohn, or Cass, we could call her. Suzette, please come forward. Let's give her some applause. I'm just going to have you stand here,
Okay.
if you would,
Sure.
so that we can look at you
Thank you.
and see you and recognize you, because that's what it's about today. I did find a quote for you. Okay, it is by Eleanor Roosevelt. "As for accomplishments, I just did what I had to do as things came along." The community of Holton can feel isolated at times from the resources available in Muskegon. So it was a major accomplishment when the Holton Community Center opened its doors in June 2009. From the organization's inception, Ms. Castorjohn, Suzette, has played a key role in the organization's ability to carry out programs by serving as the unpaid volunteer coordinator. In this role, she has become a leader in her community, matching resources and time people have to give to requests that need filling, helping the organization log over 6,000 volunteer hours in just 2010. She has been successful in recruiting youth to help the Holton community, as well as mentors for the Goodwill Guides program run by the center. Melanie Parsons, Holton Community Center Director and nominator of this Woman of Accomplishment, states, Suzette is the kind of person who is efficient, organized, hardworking, and beneficial to anything she starts. Suzette Castor-John, we recognize you as a woman of accomplishment. All right, very good. Our next award winner, Amy Heiser. Please come forward. This is an unknown quote, Amy. Some men dream of worthy accomplishments, while others stay awake and do them. I think you're a stay awake and do them. Yeah. Ms. Heiser has played an important role in the Muskegon community, serving as a vital link between Alcoa, the Fortune 200 company and the largest employer in Muskegon County, and the residents and communities of Muskegon. First serving at Kohl's Quality Foods, Heiser has been responsible for maintaining agreements between management and the various unions at Alcoa Howmet plant in Whitehall. Beyond that, she has served as the link between the Alcoa Foundation and the greater Muskegon community, facilitating grants for downtown Muskegon, the West Michigan Symphony, the Muskegon Museum of Art, the GVSU STEPS program, homeless prevention, One Muskegon, and the Child Abuse Council. Quite a doer. In addition to connecting financial resources to organizations, Amy has also served on the boards of the Muskegon Area Chamber of Commerce, the American Red Cross, the Muskegon County Health Project, and Muskegon Area Labor. Nominator Holly Hughes noted that what impresses her most about Heiser is her willingness to get her hands dirty in projects, not just help from the top. Amy Heiser, we recognize you as a woman of accomplishment. I like the whistling. That's kind of fun. At least it's not, I just judge Showcase and they have sometimes those loud horns they bring in. Nobody has horns, right? Okay, great. Our next award winner, Charlotte Johnson. Please come forward. I should note it's lovely to have Janie Brooks giving those awards. Thank you. Here's your quote, Charlotte. This comes from Joseph Addison. 3 grand essentials to happiness in this life are something to do, something to love, and something to hope for. Charlotte Johnson has been involved with the parent-teacher organization of McLaughlin Elementary School for nearly 10 years, serving while her children were students at the school, but also serving after both of them graduated and went on to middle school and high school. Charlotte has taken a leadership role for the past 4 years with Catch Camp, a 10-week summer camp for McLaughlin neighborhood children. Employed as the Healthy Neighborhood Coordinator for the McLaughlin neighborhood, in 2010, Ms. Johnson was active in the successful campaign to keep McLaughlin Elementary School open by organizing rallies and encouraging participation of residents at Muskegon Public School Board meetings. Nominator Randy Vanderwhite highlights, at her core, Charlotte exhibits a love of people. She walks alongside people with passion and compassion. Charlotte Johnson, we recognize you as a woman of accomplishment. I'm looking for her. There she is. Our final award winner, Trinette Lottie Harps. Please come forward. she's a-comin'. Anatole France said, "To accomplish great things, we must not only act, but also dream. Not only plan, but also believe." Yeah. A thought-provoking and inspirational thinker, Miss Lottie Harps, has empowered children and adults to claim and gain knowledge over the past 25 years, both in her professional and personal lives. She has served as an executive director of a self-sufficiency program, an elementary school teacher, an educational trainer, a parent specialist. For the past 10 years, she has worked at Muskegon Community College, where she recently was appointed the Dean of Continuing Education and Program Outreach in the Office of Academic Affairs. She is active in her church, Church of the Living God, where she serves as a minister and participates in the church's women's ministry as well as its outreach efforts. Nominator Marianne Williams summarized, "Trinette gives encouragement to women, young and old. Her caring and calm spirit helps others to see God in all situations." Trinette Lottie Harps, we recognize you as a woman of accomplishment. You all to step right back over here. Let's line the 4 of them up. Just right here, just stay right here. If you would, we want to get a picture of the 4 of you. And we also want to now congratulate our 2011 Women of Accomplishment. Yay! They're a pretty bunch, aren't they? Thank you so much. And Janie, thank you.
Say something if they'd like.
Oh, yes, ladies, I do apologize. Get back up here. Dan, you should have flagged me down earlier. No, you get a moment to speak. Don't you want to hear a little something? I am so sorry. Suzette, let's just start with you.
Okay. Can we clip that? Because I already got noodle legs and I don't need noodle arms too.
All right, you sure can. You bet. And yeah. There we go. There we go.
Thanks.
All right. You bet.
Okay, I did have one prepared, but I am so nervous to be amongst such powerhouse of women accomplishments. I'm floored. I simply am. But I'm going to try good old paper and pen fashion style. Hello and good morning to everyone. Good morning. Thank you. I'd like the opportunity to start by saying thank you to all those involved in this beautiful recognition process, including those who prepared such a delicious breakfast. I especially would like to thank the director of the Home Community Center, Melanie Parsons, for this nomination. I am deeply touched, really. I'm extremely honored to accept such an award. Wow. I have to admit, though, after the initial joy and shock of hearing about this, I had to ask, why me? Why me? But that didn't sound like something an accomplished woman would ask herself. So I most certainly had to stop, take a deep breath, and pray. 2 years ago, I had to have several surgeries, scary surgeries. And unfortunately, I struggle still today, every day with pain. So that's a popular question for me to ask every day is, why me? Why me? We are all in a position to influence and be influenced by those around us. Volunteering my time and heart at the Holton Community Center is like playing follow the leader. I get the opportunity to follow such profoundly great, godly people and be influenced. And I sometimes get to be the leader and influence others. Prayer changes everything, because today I am a woman before you who will not ask, why me? Today I will stand willingly and accept this honor, stand before you very proud, confident, and hoping something I said can influence you. That in spite of any hardships, pain, finances, whatever have you, that you can influence your community by volunteering in some way, and hope you can influence them. We are all called to be like Jesus. Follow Jesus and let love lead you. Having said that, now I feel accomplished. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Amy.
Yeah, that's your friend. My friend. Good morning. I think when Maria was talking to us this morning about doing it to people, I think I have that reputation. I hadn't thought of that way, but wanted to take the opportunity to talk a little bit this morning about the great community that we all live in. How awesome to get honored for what you love to do every day. And I brought like this list of stuff to say, chamber theme, start today, to try to encourage people to do what they like to do. When we talk to our young people, when we talk to our old people, when we talk to, I guess I'm old people now, I thought about that this morning. Tell people to find what they love to do. And Muskegon County offers you an opportunity to make a difference doing what you love to do. I was thinking about it yesterday, and it's been 25 years this year since I got involved in the Muskegon community, thanks to my mother, with Sancha. What a great service club. What a great group of women, mentors for us. Helen Jean Arts, Helen Larson, for people like Chris McWigan and I, who are just going to start thinking about finding our way, to get our kids involved. We used to compete. Chris always tells me I always want to win. So I don't want to do Dancing with the Stars because I want to win, right? I want to do it right. But it really did provide opportunities. The first board I was on was the Easter Seals board. It doesn't even exist today. Tony and Art Porter, for those of you who knew them, taught me a lot about this community and passion for what they did, and that it wasn't all about them. It wasn't all about you when you join a board or join a church or agree to be a piece of this, because it's not always convenient for you. If you're going to wash wheelchairs on a Saturday morning like this, it's not always convenient, but it's not about you. But it's about your passion and your ability to make a difference in a great, great community. I have the great opportunity to work for a wonderful company that this community now has the parental advantage to be part of, to have $4.5 million since Alcoa's been here to do right with and find the right opportunities to make differences here with our people and our dollars. And I would just encourage all of you, and I think we're speaking to the crowd today, as I look around and see a lot of the gap fillers. All my personal gap fillers are here. Now I'll get emotional. My daughter showed up from Florida last night, surprised me. And my mom, and my husband, and all my girlfriends. So thank you. And Claudia. And just thank you for having a plan for me, that the good Lord has provided me with a plan and a fill for all my gaps. So thank you.
Charlotte.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have to write stuff down. I get emotional and I'll start crying. So, but the most valuable resource that community has is oneself. I live in the inner city in McLaughlin neighborhood. There's poverty, there's pain, there's hopelessness, and there's oppression. But if you begin to pull back those layers, you'll begin to see what I see, and that's community. I volunteer in the Read Naturally program at McLaughlin Elementary School. I've been in this reading room for 5 years now. My work at McLaughlin Elementary School is to inspire, to uplift, to motivate, to praise, and to encourage every child that walks through those doors. When society looks at the children in my neighborhood, they see statistics, they stereotype, the children as at risk. But when I look at those same children, I see journalists, I see politicians, I see great debaters, I see children worth fighting for. As I listen to the children at school and their conversations, I'm quick to jump in and to give them a good career choice that fits their personality. I'll tell them what you can be. And they'll say, do you really think that, Ms. Johnson? I say, yes, you can do this. I inspire them to see themselves as something great, and I inspire them to dream. I was reading that looking at children and families through a deficit lens obscures a recognition of their capacities and strengths, as well as their individuality and their uniqueness. So we can begin to change the world by first changing how we look at the world. Everyone has gifts. There's gifts of the heart, there's gifts of the hand, and there's gifts of the head. And as I meet people in my neighborhood, I don't look for the things that they lack, but I look for the things that they can give and bring to develop my community. It's only when we can see a community where the outcast is valued and appreciated, we will abandon the values that seek to exclude. There's no force in the world better able to alter anything from its course than love. We need a compassion that can stand in awe at what the poor have to carry, rather than stand in judgment of how they carry it. Love never fails. It always has a way of finding itself. So today I want you to know that schools, families, organizations, and communities that successfully motivate and engage their youth can transform them. Successful motivation can transform communities and neighborhoods. Mother Teresa diagnosed the world's ills in this manner. We've just all forgotten that we all belong to each other. You stand with the least likely to succeed until success is succeeded by something